Yeah, we're good to go.
Well, welcome to this evening's meeting, the 19th of October, Town Centre and Events, and thank you all for attending. First item, there's no public session because I understand there's nobody to speak in the public session. Is that correct?
Correct.
Nobody, in which case we can move on to item 1 is apologies for absence. We received apologies from Councillor Warren White. Do we accept those?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations for interests. Is there anything members can declare it as they go through the meeting? Councillor Gately, you've muted, my dear.
17.3 under the budget. This is my links with the Fair Trade Town group.
Okay, yeah, fine. Thank you very much, Margaret. So we'll note that. Has anybody else got an issue?
No.
Take it as not. We'll move on. Item 4, action lists. Most of the stuff's covered in the agenda.
Into the minutes, Chair.
Is there anybody wishes to speak on the action list?
You
Councillor Gately, Councillor Donoghue. Is there anybody else?
Missed minutes.
Councillor Harvey.
It's the
No,
minutes,
Robin,
right?
Robin, you haven't done the minutes.
I haven't done the minutes. Oh, of course, we can agree them at this meeting, can't we? Yeah, thanks very much. Minutes of the 27th of July. Are they agreed?
Yeah, agreed.
Thumbs up from John. Anyone else? Minutes of the 10th of September. Everybody happy with those?
Agreed.
Yeah,
Thumbs
agreed.
up, that's agreed. Now we'll move on to action lists. Yeah, other action. I was trying to move it forward. I apologise for that. Is there anything on the action lists, or can we note them? Because most of it's within the agenda.
Yeah.
Are members happy to note that?
Yes, let's go with it.
Is that to speak,
No,
Councillor Harvey?
I've got a couple of questions, Robin.
Yeah, fire away.
What's happening about the Bard of Buckingham?
I think that's on.
On the
I think
agenda.
it's ongoing.
Not on the agenda. is it?
It's on the agenda.
Still on the agenda,
It is, yeah.
It is. Yes, it is.
is it?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So there's an
Which
item, I think, further down, isn't there? Bard of
Yeah, it's
Buckingham,
on there,
item
yeah.
12.
Oh yeah. Apologies. Yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
Oh, okay. The one I wanted to raise then was the climate emergency workshop. I'm wondering why we couldn't just do that as an online event.
Is that a suggestion?
Yeah, it is.
Are members happy to propose that we do a workshop online and look at the feasibility of it?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we then, if we agree that, can we have useful bits of information how we think we'll do that sent to Amanda, and we'll plan it, but it'll obviously won't happen instantly, so it'll take
No, of
some
course not.
time.
Maybe bring a report back to the next meeting with some ideas.
Are members happy to do that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And at least we can move it forward. I mean,
Yeah.
but we are getting quite good at doing online things. Well,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
think we are. Only time will tell. In which case, was there anything else on the action list of anybody I've missed? Please speak now.
Oh, the other thing was litter picking. What happened to litter picking?
I think we were going to do that later down on the list.
Yeah.
John,
that's one of
the River Rinse.
What?
If you look at the
Sorry, river rinse is about river rinse, not about litter picking, is it?
yeah, well,
on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Item
Yeah.
9.
we're on the agenda.
Item 9.
Item 9, litter picking event.
Sorry, didn't see it.
Well, it's
I'm not
okay,
very
John.
good at
It's fine.
thinking, am I,
It's better
really?
to ask questions than
You'll
not
get
ask
there
them
in
at
a
all.
minute, John.
I tend to read the written reports, you see, and then look at those. I don't.
Don't matter,
always
mate.
look at the
It's fine.
agenda.
It's all right with me. I'm not worried. It's better that you ask questions and get it than not actually ask them, isn't it? Item 5 then. You've all had the Market Town Action Report, Group Report, Market Town Report. Is there any comments on that? Because you remember what we agreed, and we'll take the town clerk first. But what we agreed was we wanted to be signed up to it. So if I take the town clerk and then take up members afterwards, is that okay?
Just to remind you that after the agenda went out, I did forward an email about the next meeting of the group as well. So that might be something members are interested in.
Okay, well, Councillor Gately, I saw first.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting, that Appendix B, but I wasn't absolutely sure it related completely to the Rural Market Town Group. I mean, they were all very positive suggestions and very eco-friendly, and I've nothing to disagree with at all, but maybe it's my own shortcoming because I tend to read things straight down the line, but I couldn't quite see how it linked with the Rural Market Town Group.
I haven't got an explanation for that. Can the town clerk step in there?
I think it was the latest we had from CPRE. So you have a valid point, Margaret, and the email I sent is probably more helpful, to be fair.
Well, yeah, any thanks for raising that, Councillor Gately. Anybody else wish to speak on it? I take that as no. Is that agreed? Well, can I suggest that we, in that case, we note it, we take on board what Councillor Gately has said, and we members come back after looking at the two things together with suggestions on how we proceed, because this is a wide document that they published us, which as Councillor Gately said, is quite encompassing lots of different things. But I think with the market town as we are, we do need to keep a close eye on it, because as we all know, we're not sure how things are going to be post-COVID and whatever, that maybe we should keep this, at least come back to next agenda. The town clerk wishes to speak.
Just to ask if any members would like to attend their meeting on the 9th of November, which is the agenda I circulated, which I actually think looks quite interesting.
Is there nobody volunteering?
Is it
Is
on
that
Zoom, Chair?
Yeah.
Nobody. I'm Councillor Gately again.
I'd be interested. I think that, as I say, I'm a bit confused because of that paper, because the paper I felt had a huge overlap with both the Environment Committee's remit and also probably Planning Committee. Now I'm on the Environment Committee, but I'm not on Planning. But maybe again, I shouldn't be considering attendance at the Rural Market Town Group in relation to that paper, because I think they may be.
Well, the CPRE, Margaret, are they're a group which are primarily to defend rural environment. So it's not surprising that they have things about planning, and it's not surprising they have things about the environment. It could be that those elements in this, perhaps officers should look at it to see whether they are something we would want to take forward in the Environment Committee. But the market town thing, I can't commit at this point myself to the 9th. But we should really send somebody, if not an officer. Councillor Donoghue, then Councillor Gately.
I don't have my phone near me, but do we have a council meeting at night? Because if not, then I'll sit on that.
We do.
Well, the meeting runs from 4 till 6. So you could have an hour off before council.
Yeah, it might be a lot doing 2 in 1, but Chair, I'll try and sit in on it.
It's resources committee that day.
Okay.
Councillor Margaret Gately.
I'd be happy to participate in that meeting if it's appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know, Margaret.
Margaret, listening, if you're happy to do it, Margaret, and give us a short note of your thoughts about it, that would be really wonderful, because you'll pick up something of use to us. And as we said in the first point, we don't know where we're going to be going forward, and we just need to be as robust as we can be and support our market. So is that agreed that, before I take Lisa again, is that agreed that Margaret would represent us on that? Councillor Donoghue.
I did say that I'd go along as well, and I don't.
Okay, well,
me and Margaret could do it.
Well, is there just through the town clerk? Is there a specific amount of us can go?
No, it doesn't say that it has to be just one.
Well, in which case, let's leave it open-ended to members of the committee, knowing that Margaret and Councillor Donoghue are willing to attend. And then if any other members of the committee feel they can do that on that evening, like myself, I might breeze into it. Because you pick up stuff from these types of people, stuff that you're never going to learn anywhere else.
True.
So in that case, we'll move off that item and we'll move on to item 6, terms of reference. That was just a tidying up exercise. The members happy just to agree that?
Yeah, we've agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than discuss it in any length. Right, okay. Which is item 7 then, story collection micro festival planning for 2021. I'll ask the town clerk just to give you a brief outline of what that actually is.
Well, as you'll see, Buckinghamshire Council are working to develop their cultural agenda, very much positioning themselves as taking a lead on cultural matters in the county, which is a good thing. They're looking at story collecting as a future theme, which works well for Buckingham, given the Bard of Buckingham and the amount of local narrative and stories we have. So really it's to note it, and presumably if members are happy, we can write to them to say we're keen that they do something, and to ask them to ensure that any communications and promotions they put out about storytelling includes Buckingham and they involve us in any plans they have for the future.
Yeah, before, has Amanda got anything to say on that before we move off? I've got one thing to say.
No, I've
Take
got
that,
nothing.
no, okay, just to say that perhaps we should write back to them if it's agreed by the members that we formally wish to be involved. On a personal matter, I do know that the North Bucks carers have produced a book which very much fits into this storytelling, and it's just been published. So it could be that we could have a look at, we could probably get a copy of that book to the office and see whether that's an appropriate thing for storytelling, because it is very much local people telling local stories about their life, but it might not fit within it. Or should we just advertise the fact that we're looking for people to bring forward really good stories about their life in Buckingham? So that it's people, because we've got people in the town, we need to capture their lives now, because it's important we capture their lives now rather than miss the opportunity of hearing about their life. Councillor Donoghue.
Thanks. I don't know if it's I don't know what the theme of it is, but I'm thinking back to when we did one of the community drama and art projects at the Buckingham School, and one of the students there had a relative that came from Buckingham, and they had some really good stories about their relatives living locally and the jobs that they did, and I think one of them was a rat catcher or something. And so you know, maybe we could go, if they haven't done it already, the council, maybe we can go to the schools, publicise it through there, see if any of the young people have got any stories.
Well, being as we are the community council in Buckingham, could I suggest that we do something about noting this report from them, and we would like to be a gatekeeper, making sure people's lives, true events in Buckingham and life stories are actually become part of this.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was intended to have. Am I correct, Town Clerk?
Yeah.
And that way we can be a gatekeeper for it, not to edit, to change or anything that people say, but just be a conduit for the community to speak. And I will make sure that the information that I've suggested from the North Bucks carers is available, because that might be suitable. Councillor Bloomfield.
Well, we should know by the next meeting, Chairman, because they do say that this only will go ahead if they can get the funding, which they should get by the end of this year. So we should know by the next meeting whether it's going to go ahead or not.
Taking your advice, Councillor Bloomfield, do you think we're too early to go out and advertise in case we disappoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should secure the funding first and then go out. We've only got to wait another couple of months if it's going to be for this year. And we've got a meeting, I believe, in February, Amanda.
Yeah, I think it's beginning of February.
I think you make a good point, Councillor Bloomfield. So we agree that we support this, and once we know that it's a funded event, we'll try to communicate to people in February about doing short stories, live stories, because who knows what will come out of it, and extend it to a little bit wider than Buckingham, you know, Mays, Morton and the villages, and Gorcut, which was part of the borough, and that type of thing, because those people's lives are part of the town, aren't they? And it'd be a shame to miss a wonderful story, wouldn't it? Without making some wonderful stories up, but that would be be good too. So on that basis, are you happy, Kate and Councillor Bloomfield's wise advice? We'll bring this back to February.
Yep.
At that point, we'll be more vocal about it. Does that agree?
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you very much. Item 8.
Sorry, Robin, we've skipped over item 6, terms of reference.
No, we've done that.
We've done that.
Oh, sorry. Then I've completely missed
I
that.
asked, was there any objections to it? And people said no, so we moved forward.
That was quick. Apologies.
I know, but you should be impressed with that. But that's fine. Right, item 8, Community Group Fundraising Day. Amanda's going to talk a little bit on this before we open it up.
Okay, as you can see from the information, this has come from a grants review report that went to, I think it was Resources and Full Council. Resources back in September. And I put in a recommendation that we get in touch with the Buckingham Society and do something joint with them, and do it around sort of June time. But we'd have to check when the Mortonville tournaments take place, because they take most of the people away from the town, and that's why we moved to Fringe Week. I think I've put in the reports that we could do it, you know, maybe sort of something similar to the Spring Fair, but also invite organisations that we give grants to every year, and let them sort of promote themselves, so that people know what they do, what they're all about.
Thank you, Amanda. But what I'm aware of is that this is a precepted item for the 2021-22 precept. So we precepted it to be agreed. So on the basis that if that budget is agreed in the precept, we could do some outline planning of it, because it takes time to plan this event. And as it's a full council recommendation, it would be bizarre that they then decided not to agree the money that they'd recommended we do. So on that basis, can we be minded to the fact we don't want to replicate the community fair, which takes place at Christmas? And I'm conscious that we need to search appropriate organisations to meet this criteria, both local and probably wider afield. So on that sort of thing, I'll take Councillor Bloomfield.
No, you just asked. It's fine. Carry on, Chairman.
But I do think that we need to step into this properly, allowing decent time to plan it. But the date needs to be agreed, the conversation with the Buckingham Society after tonight, if we're going to do it with the Heritage Day. And we do need to check what Amanda says to Torment. Councillor Gately.
Thank you. It's just that, am I right in thinking that this was proposed because the community fair at Christmas isn't happening? Presumably the spring fair won't be happening. And so this is another way of raising the profile and raising money for the groups involved, or have I got that wrong?
No, I'm not. It didn't come from that route. I can't, Margaret, give you the correct, because I think it came from council through discussions that we should undertake this as a recommendation. So it was a recommendation from council because of the thoughts that many of the charity organisations are under strain. COVID has been a major incident and that ever. But if I'm wrong, the town clerk's going to correct me now.
No, I'm agreeing with you. It came out of the grants working group where we looked at grants policy and what we spend those on. We looked at other ways we could support the voluntary and community sector. And so as a point of principle, it came out as an idea of another way to support voluntary groups in the town, presumably as an annual event going forwards.
Taking that in place, has anybody else got anything to add? Would it be worth, not tonight committing yourselves, but members look at their availability and things that you all know about the community, because we all have our own expertise as councillors and knowledge, personal knowledge, and we start collating our personal knowledge about organisations that we know of, so that helps Amanda draw up a list, and we ask Amanda to look at broader organisations to bring back to a future meeting once we've agreed to date, so that we can start pegging it down. And at that point, if we're going to go in June, we need to then bring the Buckingham Society in as a partner organisation, depending that they agree to. We don't want to overrule their event, you know, would be rude. Are we happy to sort of proceed on that basis so we can start putting stuff together? Because every member of our committee knows something that every other member doesn't. And are we happy also just to open that invitation out to all the other councillors to come forward with the organisations they know of, so that we can start collating this information rather than ask Amanda to go around and ask all the questions? Would that be a reasonable way forward?
Yeah.
I take that as a no objection. Yeah. Is that agreed?
Yeah, Councillor O'Donoghue's got a hand up.
Councillor O'Donoghue, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I do apologise.
That's right, Robin. Oh, sorry, Kieran. Hi, Kieran. Right. I just wondered if any of the organisations had been contacted to see if they would be willing to come along. I'm pretty sure the youth club would, because Katie's tried to do something before for the hirers of the youth club, and it's something that she's quite passionate about, is raising a profile. So I'm pretty sure that the youth clubs would love to get involved.
Well, that's just what we were saying, that people like yourself, Councillor Donny, put that information in, so that comes part of the intellectual knowledge about this event, so that when we bring it back, we can start pegging some stuff down in once we've got agreement. And what you said adds really well into it. It's excellent.
It's just because they want to grab enough, we're one of the grant, because it's to do with the grants, and because the youth clubs is a grant receiver, so the information is already there in the document. It
is. You're right. You're right. So are we happy to put Councillor Trio's on his side?
Thank you.
His meeting on his side at the moment.
I was supporting Bethany.
You're supporting Bethany, who's on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is a great idea, but I'm assuming Amanda's got all the underlying things probably already in her notebook, but I'm assuming this is going to be sort of during the day or late afternoon. And I think it's great that this day in the middle of the year can then feed in maybe to the community fair, because that gives those organisations two bites of the cherry and be able to follow things up.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to need some support, aren't they, going forward? And if we can't do it in 2021, we'll want to definitely do it in 2022. So we need to start planning for it. We have to be reminded that we don't control COVID and we don't control what we'll be doing next year, but we should plan accordingly if we with hope and see what takes place. So on that basis, are we happy to proceed? And as I say, the councillors have demonstrated tonight what they know about their own organisations and patches, which is what I knew. So if that can be fed into Amanda after the meeting, we could move on to the next item, if that's agreed.
That's good.
Agreed, yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Which brings us to item 9, which is litter picking, Councillor Harvey. We'll have a verbal report from, I'm only joking. We have a verbal report from the town events coordinator on that.
Hang on, am I muted? The litter picking didn't go ahead this year because we were sort of not sure where we were going with the COVID restrictions and groups like that. As you know, the River Rinse was an event that wasn't advertised and was by invitation only. So the litter picking, I'm afraid, didn't go ahead, sort of for the same reasons.
Could I suggest, Amanda, and with the councillor's consent, that we keep this as a live situation, because it seems to me that if we have an election in 2021, that planning a litter picking event and maybe discussing whether we could feasibly look at doing the river rinse we were not able to do because of the rainfall, and as a way of bringing new councillors and established councillors together on something. We don't know if the rule of 6 will be in place or whatever, but try to do it after May, so that we've got liberty to do it, and as a sort of bonding exercise. Councillor Bloomfield.
I think John's had his hand up first, Chair.
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, I mean, my view on this is we don't need to do it together.
No.
We don't even need really to do it on the same day. Is that each one of us who wants to do something just, gets out there with a plastic sack and a litter picker, and maybe just goes to an area where they've seen plenty of rubbish, or perhaps maybe been alerted to where there's some rubbish, and just pick up a bag full, and then photograph the bag, and ourselves, litter picker, submit the photograph into Amanda, and then we produced a collage of all the councillors and others who wish to join in with us, picking litter up in the town. And we maybe 2 or 3 days in which we say this is to be done, and then everyone can take part in that activity. You don't need to come together. I appreciate normally we like to be together, and it's a good community building event between councillors and the residents and so on. But in this instance, we don't have to be, but we can still share in the activity and share in the pleasure of keeping our place even tidier and cleaner than it currently is.
I think the committee clerk's got something she wants to say. I have noticed.
Update to what Amanda was saying is that off the back of us not being able to have a litter pick, we were looking around at ideas, and our communications clerk Louise came across a great idea that Buckinghamshire Council, that was titled A Rubbish Idea, actually, and is something that we could roll out in Buckingham. It's a very simple online event whereby you are asking residents following COVID compliance to have a photograph taken picking up some rubbish, similar to what John's suggesting. So you take a photograph of someone picking up rubbish, putting it in a bin, and then you tag us or you send it on to us, and it's within competition rules. So if it's a novel photograph, then it's within a particular deadline. Photographs will be judged by, let's say, the town mayor and the town clerk. And we've also been given some prizes that we can contribute to this competition. So Mary from Finca El Monte has donated a beautiful shawl made entirely from plastic waste. And we've also been given some money to purchase some reusable water bottles, some branded reusable Buckingham water bottles that we can offer to runners up. So this is something we could roll out over the half-term holiday.
I think that's an excellent idea. And what through the not a day, so that the weather's not great here. So we did it over the half-term holiday and advertised it as such. As long as children are accompanied by an adult in doing this. One question through the town clerk is, for the waste disposal, we got a waste disposal licence to be able to do this, because we have to be able to dispose of the waste thereafter.
I don't think the suggestion is that we're asking people to bring the waste to us. Nearly, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So it's just individuals, Robin. So if you were out on a walk around Borton Park, for instance, and you saw some litter in the hedgerow, you would, obviously sanitize your hands afterwards, pick up that litter, take a photograph of yourself disposing of it in the litter bin, and then submit that photograph to us as part of the competition. So we're not asking people to, you know, go around. If they want to take a whole bin full, a whole bag of it, then that's great. But we're not asking them to then bring those bags back to us.
No, it's excellent, excellent. I'll go back to Councillor Harvey, who very much proposed exactly what you were saying. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, agreed. That's a great idea. I think we should piggyback on what Buckinghamshire Council have put together. Let's do it. What I would say, though, is I think people need to think about where they are going to put their rubbish, because I managed to go up to the there's a piece of sort of land by the bypass, kind of opposite the hotel and the Esso garage. And I went down there, spent about, I don't know, an hour or so, and managed to fill up 2 black plastic sacks with a lot of bottles and cans and everything else. And then I was thinking, oh God, what do I do with these sacks now? So I walked along to the Esso garage and said, look, would you mind if I put them in your rubbish bin here? I've just been told what I was doing. And they said, yeah, that's fine, that's okay. But I think people have to think through, where is the sack going to go when they've filled it up? And either we need to, might be, people want to, I don't know, there's obviously lots of litter bins around, and you can just put it in a litter bin. Or you need to think about where you might want to leave it for perhaps one of our staff or the refuse staff to pick it up. There are some logistical issues that might need to be thought through.
I've listened carefully to that. One of the things, unless any member wishes to speak before myself, maybe we need to look at whether we can have a look at the budget with agreement afterwards, whether we hire one biffer bin in and have it somewhere so that people put it into that bin to take away. Very much like we have a bin for the Bandjam and that type of thing. Whether, because we didn't actually hire any bins in for that, so we have got budget which we could agree to use. You know, without being specific on the budget headings at the moment, but we should do, if we agree it, that we hire in a biffer bin and maybe get agreement to have it stationed, probably best is in by the community centre there, and with agreement of Buckinghamshire Council, so that we are assured that we don't, that people have got somewhere to deposit it. They might not get it in their own waste bin. That's what I'm worried about. And then we may get the question about, has it been recycled? Well, clearly litter is not something you can recycle, but we're doing it to clean up the wider environment. So taking that on board, do members agree that we use a percentage of the budget we would have used for both music in the market and whatever to fund a bin, so that we can actually direct people to somewhere? Is that agreed?
Agreed.
That way we're assured that we're acting responsibly then. And being as Nina's so up on this, are you going to help Amanda draft the press release to tell them where we're going to do it, and so that you're actively involved? She's gone mute again.
The press release is already drafted.
Is it jolly good? I like these psychic council meetings where the officers prejudge. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's brilliant, isn't it? How they can prejudge our decisions. It's marvellous. It makes you wonder why we're here. But take care. That's a joke. Well, thank you for that. And are we happy to use that some budget from there? And we'll allow the office to discuss the appropriate amount of bins. And I'm sure if it's that we need somewhere safe to put it, and I think down by the recycles in the community centre or somewhere, or even on our own land, so that people can do it. On that basis, are we happy to move on to the next item?
Yeah.
And can I thank everyone for their contributions to that? It was truly positive. Right, which brings us on to Buckingham Calendar 2021, Town Clerk.
Just to say that the calendars haven't quite yet arrived. But as soon as they do, we'll be doing a press release on them.
Councillor Harvey?
Will it be possible to order these online?
That's a good question. I should know the answer to that, because now you said it, it sounds like a really obvious thing to do, as we have an online ordering facility on our website now.
Yeah.
But I don't remember discussing it, which might mean it's been discussed and organised without me, or it might mean we haven't. So either way round, we will look into it. If we can, we will.
Yeah, good.
Right.
Well, can we agree that we'd like to add that option to it?
Yeah.
Because of
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we all look forward to seeing it. Can members, if possible, if you've sent it out before, I apologise. Can members, if possible, have early sight of what's going to go in it, the photographs and that, just so we know what they are, just so we feel involved?
Yeah, I think with the EDWG we showed members some of the photos in it.
Yeah, but it's from this committee that they cede their power to operate. So because it's coming out of here and it comes under promotion and tourism information, so it comes from this committee. So can we agree then that once the information's there, we'll do a press release and tell people it's available, because they are really, really good calendars. I personally like buying one and sending it to my brother-in-law in Hong Kong, because it's always nice to get something from Buckingham that you can post to people where you grew up. It's they personally like it. Well, in which case,
John's got a hand up.
yeah, John.
Yeah, I just want to just emphasise that I've seen some of the pictures, and they look even better than last year. And last year's was pretty darn good. So I think this year's is going to be even better. And I think it's a fantastic way of bringing together people from across the town into producing something that's quite beautiful.
So
would members like to see some of the pictures?
Please.
Yeah.
You're going to put them up?
Yeah, just give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mustn't print them off, obviously.
No, obviously.
No screenshotting and pinching them.
Well, the thing is, they will be public once you put them up.
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember seeing that.
that's beautiful.
Your back garden, Robin.
Thank you, Terry.
Is that the same one again?
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so
Wow.
do I.
I think it's lovely.
Wow.
That is good.
That's not my back garden, Terry.
No, it's not jumbled enough, Robin.
No.
Oh, I like that. Is a good photo. That is.
Mm.
Well, photo of a picture, whatever.
I'll give you one more just to give you a taste.
Thank you.
Don't want to spoil it too much, obviously.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, that's
So do I.
nice. Yeah.
It's always a favourite spot in Buckingham there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
Yes, was it? Yeah, Sunday.
Where's
Well-
his safety equipment?
Oh, his mother.
Idiot.
Yeah.
His mother was there, I suspect. That was his
Good old
safety.
fashioned parenting. That's so
Yeah,
safe.
it's called parenting, you know.
Thanks,
Something
Bob.
that everyone's done. Right. With that, we'll note that we'll do a press release once we've got it done then and agreed, and do some marketing of it. And congratulations. Can we record our thanks to all those involved in coordinating and putting that together?
Yeah. Brilliant.
Thank you very much. In which case, move on to item 11, which is the War Memorial, whatever. Where were we on that, Town Clerk? You had discussions about that, haven't you? But about Reef Lane, I understand that you still.
No, this is different, Robin. This is the War Memorial rededication.
Okay, yeah. Okay, apologise. Yeah.
So at the moment, it was going to be this year, just gone, which was the actual centenary. We have moved it to next May. So this is to consider, given some of the people we're likely to be inviting and wanting there and vulnerability. At this stage, do we want to move it again from next May? Do we want to delay that decision?
Because this is emotional, Would members be happy that we suggest we do this so that it does take place in 2022? And because I say that because 2021 is very close, and 2022 is further ahead, that we could do it in 2022. How many years would that be then, Town Clerk?
That'd be 102.
102.
Councillor Harvey has a hand.
Councillor Harvey?
Well, obviously, I mean, you know, I was the person that was pushing this from the outset. I mean, if we genuinely think that by May next year, it's not going to be possible to have any kind of group event, then fair enough. But I would say we're still some months away from that. I would suggest that we review this in January, and at that point decide whether we go ahead with it or not. I think it's too soon to knock it forward another year. I think there's a reasonable chance that there will be a vaccine ready by the spring, and that life can be getting back to somewhat normal. And I think the message that this gives out is that we think that things are still going to be very bad come May next year. And I think most people are thinking, bloody hell, I hope not, and even though it might be, I do think it's worth trying to stick with this until at least we get to the beginning of the year and have a reasonable idea as to what the trajectory of the pandemic is.
I think, yeah, I take your point. I saw Councillor Gately put a thumb up to what you were saying about being positive. Probably I've had a long day, so perhaps I'm not feeling quite as positive on paperwork than the rest of you. Can I just see the majority of us wish to do that? So we a show of hands to do it for 2021.
Review it in January, as Councillor.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, the next meeting is the 8th of Feb.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's review it on the 8th of Feb then.
That's what we're agreeing, Councillor Murray.
Yeah, that was unanimous.
That's unanimous. That's good. I mean, you are right to be positive. Sorry, I was not being positive. Councillor Gately.
Just on the next meeting, our next meeting is the 7th of December, which is clearly too soon. I think but just to clarify, we have got a meeting between now and February. That was all, because I think it's been mentioned twice as the next meeting in February, and we do have another one.
Yeah, you're quite right, Margaret. I do apologise. Yeah, so we're aiming for February.
Yeah.
And we should know by then, shouldn't we? And we can push ahead with it, hopefully. Right. With that, then now we're not discussing the matters. We'll move on to item 12. It's the Bard of Buckingham to receive a verbal report from the town clerk.
Yeah, just briefly to say, we were due to have an election for the Bard around now because we've reached the year and a day since the original election. In discussion with the current Bard, we postponed that until next spring, again in the hope that we can do something a bit more of a physical event. Partly because it seemed quite unfair to create a new Bard now and then give them no events they can attend. That would be quite a tricky and depressing role to have, possibly. So hopefully we'll do it in the spring. And I guess once we get back into doing events, we'll seek to have a Bard election early on, so we've got a new Bard to do the new events with.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
Thank you. Which brings us on to item 13, Good Endings Fair 2021. Well, can I have the events coordinator talk us through where she thinks we are with that?
As you know, the Good Endings Fair was cancelled in March due to us all going into lockdown, and we had rescheduled it for September. That was then cancelled because we thought, it might be in sort of not look quite so good after what we'd been through at the beginning of the year. I think my main thing now is, are we going to go ahead and do one next year? And if so, could we do it in September rather than March of next year? Because I think if we go into a lockdown through the winter and we go ahead and do an event like this in March, I don't think it would be in good taste.
No, nor do
I don't think it is. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who have gone through a lot of personal grief and upset and haven't been able to grieve correctly. So we must treat this with true sensitivity, I believe. Any other members got any differing views to that?
Councillor Harvey has that.
Just I agree with Amanda. I think scheduling it for next September is wise, and genuinely I hope by then the pandemic will just be a very bad memory, and we'll be able to begin to look forward with a bit more certainty again. And so yeah, I agree. September next year is a good time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Was that agreed then? Everyone happy with that?
Yep.
Thank you. Was that to speak, Councillor Bloomfield?
Yeah, just to say, yeah, I agree with September, but let's get it in context that providing, I mean, are we saying that we need to give it a bit of grace between it being all clear of COVID, and then have a good ending fair? We don't want it 4 weeks after, say, 40, 50, 60,000 people have died. So I think you want at least a 3-month gap between. So as we say, if it's goes on till June, and then that's it, which I think it will go on till June. But anyway, I think we need at least a 3-month gap between when we can go about our business as we have done in the past, and then organise it. We can go for September at the moment, but let's have a decent gap between the ending of COVID and the fair.
Am I taking it, Councillor Bloomfield, you're suggesting that we keep this under review?
Well, I'm quite happy to get a date for September, Robin, but I think we need to get it in context. We're not going to look what sort of councillor we're going to look like if there's 40 or 50,000 people died and it's the following week. That's all I'm saying.
Quite right.
What I'm saying is a decent time, you know, for people to they won't get back to more normal. People that have lost people will never get back to normal.
They never will.
I don't want people, I mean, it is in good taste what John's doing, but we don't want it to be seen in a bad light too soon. That's all I'm saying. We must go to September, and let's hope we can do it.
I agree with Councillor Bloomfield.
We need to be really sensitive around these issues.
Yes,
we just don't know what once the lockdown comes off and people can get back, we will only then find out,
yes,
as councillors, what exactly has gone on in people's lives, because they'll be able to tell us. At the moment, it's jilted conversations through a mask and just with a small circle of friends that we're able to meet while socially distancing, and third-hand information quite often. And I fear there's a lot of people out there who have had a very unfortunate time, and we shouldn't make it any worse. So we'll keep it under review, plan for September, but not pin that date down till certainty prevails. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. In which case it brings on to item 14, Christmas light switch on. Can we move that to confidential, please? Because I've got some things I want to discuss in the confidential with you about that. That'll be explained in the confidential. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Which brings us on to item 15, shop promotions. Received discussion from the town clerk.
Yeah, thank you. So we talked about this at EDWG a bit. So firstly, to confirm that Buckinghamshire Council have been, they've kept and they're being flexible with the free parking days that we would normally have had, 2 for the charter fairs and 1 for Christmas parade. So those dates have been slightly rescheduled, and I can't remember exactly what the new dates are, but we'll circulate them round, to be 1 at half term and 1 nearer Christmas. And also we're looking at ways of promoting people to come into Buckingham to shop for Christmas and to use the markets. So we're trying to work out what might be a good brand on social media to do that, and we're working with Mary and the traders to try and find ways of supporting them through that period.
Thank you. Before I ask questions or comment, any member wish to comment on this? I take that as no. Just can I seek assurance through the town clerk that if we are doing, as it's on our item promotion, the shopping, that we make clear that we do a press release about the charter fair dates being moved into the Christmas period, so people know that that's why they're there, and do a proper explanation from the town council's point of view about what we're doing. And then if some information comes out about planning the trading day, that we allow the office to do an appropriate promotions and press release around this. We don't need to bring it back, because if it's positive about Buckingham, we'd all support it, wouldn't we? You know, because we haven't got a meeting, as Margaret quite rightly reminded us, till December, in which case it will be just before Christmas. So we need to allow the office some good leeway. If there's any issues, Councillor Bloomfield and I'll look at them, and we'll come back to you if we need to seek agreement on any budgetary issues. If there's a budgetary question, we'll meet to discuss that, because we won't discuss that on our own. But we do need to promote the town this Christmas, and we do need to make sure that we don't know where we're going to be with this tier system that's introduced. And if we are open for business as a town, we need to make sure that our traders get some money back in the till, so they're with us next year, really. So we should give them a bit of leeway to be inventive and so on. Is that agreed?
Yeah, agreed.
We've got a good team in the office who will do this. Thank you very much. In which case, we're going to move on to item 16, which is summer youth projects. That there's a report here, but as Councillor Donoghue has been leading on youth projects, I'd ask her whether she's got any comments on the report.
So, where are we? Okay, so the
youth, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so the one that I'd comment on would be the second part of it, not the first part, because the first part is the younger age range. The report is like, it's really good reading. They did a lot of work down there, and I'm really pleased that they had so many young people talking to them and opening up about things, and the signposting to other organisations was good. I was going to ask, because we've discussed this previously, when we support something or pay for something that we have, like, sponsored by Buckingham Town Council, with their final day, the Saturday 5th of September, did we have anything down there that said that we'd paid for it?
Not that I'm aware of. To be fair, we didn't pay for the Saturday. That was something they did free of charge. After the other days we'd paid for, that was a kind of bonus one they thought they'd do just because it seemed like a good opportunity to deliver it.
Oh, fair enough then. Okay, thanks.
Margaret, Councillor Gately.
Yeah, thank you. I just thought it was a really full and encouraging report about those activities at a time when most things had been cancelled. They were able to deliver that, and it sounds as though everybody enjoyed it, really. And that I think that's absolutely great. And I hope our thanks can be recorded to Action for Youth, who managed to make this happen, and to our events coordinator as well, and everybody else at this end who was involved. Sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Just on a brief note, we did attend, Councillor Donoghue, Councillor Harvey and myself, we attended one of the things and discussed them, and one of the benefits of it was that we got the young people's personal views about their priorities on the skate park, and that was a public engagement, socially distanced. We were one side of the rail, and out of that, awareness of that project was lifted, and out of those actions from the young people, which was a written letter to the cabinet member and a petition which was facilitated for them by Councillor Harvey, I believe, that has risen that issue up to the profile. So the young people in themselves need some credit for that. And the cabinet member was making really positive overtones about delivering that. Will come back to environment at some point, shared information about delivering that project. But I think we should record in the correspondence of our minutes that we had that conversation with the young people, and we should record the actions that was facilitated through Amanda, an action for youth, and they helped us deliver those actions. And so often young people have built up frustrations and they don't get a chance to express them. And that was a good exercise in young people, local young people democracy, really, I suppose. So I think we should record that. And can we ask the communication strategy group to look at doing a small piece on this around youth sensitivities or respected? If it has already been planned to be done, I'm taking them from the town clerk nodding, it's already in hand. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's going to be in the winter newsletter. There's some great photos of children kayaking on the river. Who knew? Yeah,
that's good. You know, that's brilliant, because I mean we had a very heavy discussion, didn't we, about committing these funds through COVID, and the members of the committee were keen to support this and commit our funds to young people at a time when young people were really struggling to have anything to do. So I think it was the right decision and turned out to be a success. So we were right in our thinking for once, weren't we? You know. Well, thank you for that.
Robin, Councillor Harvey's got a hand up.
Yeah, Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, just report that the petition that arose out of that discussion with the young people on that day gathered 225 signatures, which I think for a small town, that's not a bad size of petition. And I've had words with the town clerk, and together we should be making sure that the petition will be formally presented to the next community board meeting. I understand as well, I think because of an email from you, Councillor Stutchby, that the Buckinghamshire Council are underway now to commission the work required to spend the money and put in place a new skate park, hopefully in time for the summer holidays next year, because obviously there's a good amount of time to get things ready by then. And I think obviously our conversation with the young people has helped connect them to the political process, that things can be done and things can be achieved. And we did listen, and that's we in a bigger sense, not just us, the town council, but also the Buckinghamshire Council. I'm sure will be very popular amongst the young people if they manage, and we hope they do, to get a new skate park in place for sometime early next year.
The cabinet member in his correspondence to me was very keen to move it forward, and that's always a good thing, isn't it? And I was impressed with his sharpness of his response and the seriousness he took it. We so often criticise people. He was quite sharp in his response. So on that basis, are we happy to note what was said and the actions that we now know are being taken place in the community strategy group? And just can we have a few words about the local democracy element of it in that article as well? Because I think it's important that young people, when they get this magazine through the door and their parents say, oh, was it you down there who was involved in that? And they can see that they are succeeding in and being listened to. And I think that's important. Councillor Gately.
Yeah, thank you. The deadline for the next issue has already passed, but there is a report with photos of that project. If with local democracy, that opening up the potential article for the following newsletter, I guess.
So take it your advisement that maybe we can include that in that. Would that be sensible? Because we don't know what's going to come out of local democracy week this week. There may be something we can marry it up together. It knits together nicely. Young people speaking about their concerns. And then when they open this magazine everyone works so hard on, there'll be something in there that they've had an influence over. And that's important, I think. So in which case, we're happy to move on after that to item 17, budgets. Well, most of this is to receive because we will be meeting again, as Councillor Gately reminded us, in December. Sorry, I'm just saying it was nice that you reminded us. So item 2.1, receive the budget figures. They are just what they are. Item 7.2 to receive the budget forecast of COVID. Well, that's what it is, because we don't know where it's going to be. And item 7.3, I've gone through the budgets with the town clerk. There's no major changes in there to detriment of the committee. But what I will say is that between now and the next meeting, it gives members chance to review those figures, and if we think there's something we're missing, to bring it back to the next committee meeting in December, or to discuss amending it, because we don't know with item 7.2 COVID where we'll be financially by then, and I don't want to tie the town clerk down too tightly at this point by agreeing them. If we can just note all three of those, and then bring it back to the December meeting and make some firm decisions on that, would that be sensible?
Yeah, noted.
Yeah. Noted, yeah.
Noted.
Thank you very much. Item 18, forthcoming events, which is where I bumbled into one, didn't I, earlier? That's what I meant to say. 18.1, which is the Members Parade. Amanda, events coordinator.
Unfortunately, this year's Remembrance Day parade won't be going ahead. We're not providing a road closure for it, and they're going to be having a gathering at the church. I think the last I heard from the British Legion was people will be allocated time slots as to when they're laying their wreath. The wreath for us will be laid by the mayor. That's already on order and will be delivered to us in time. The Green Spaces team will go ahead and put up the Union flags on the, I can't remember what date it is, but the parade would have been on the 8th, so the flags will go up. I think it's the Thursday before that.
6th of November, Friday, 6th of November.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. So they're going to go ahead and put the flags up. They will do the normal cleaning at the War Memorial a few days before, and plus they will be out on that morning getting rid of any leaves that have come down off the trees, so that it's not slippery up there for people. Also, Mr. Weston's Red for Remembrance. He's going ahead and encouraging people to hang red ribbons on the cattle pens. I think it's from next week through to the actual Remembrance Day, which is on the 11th.
I take it that we're agreeing to that, as we do control the cattle pens and have the sort of ability to say what goes on to those cattle pens. Some time back we were given that responsibility as a town council and the banners. Are we agreeing we'll allow that? Councillor Gately.
Councillor Harvey's hand was up first.
Sorry, John.
Yeah, I was a bit unsure as to the meaning of some of the phraseology. It's the 1.5 where it says it's recommended that Mr. Weston has sole responsibility for the ribbons and decorations being placed on the railings and being taken down. So are we saying that Lionel will be putting them up as well as taking them down? Because I thought he was encouraging people to place their own ribbons or whatever else he wanted to place to remember the people who were injured and killed during the World Wars and so on. And secondly, there's been quite a discussion on Facebook recently about vision of people as they exit from the road that's next to the cattle pens. This was prompted by this discussion of a poster that's been put up next to Sainsbury's, but that's another matter. So I think we need to ensure that people's vision of cars coming isn't going to be obstructed by a proliferation, which there could well be, of ribbons and poppies and whatever else people want to place up there as an act of remembrance. How is this going to be policed? Who's going to police it? And have all these things been thought through?
Well, I got Councillor Gately wanted to speak in it, and the town clerk indicated, and then Amanda was going to speak. So we'll go in that order.
Right, thank you. I was just going to make that point about safety, road safety, really. although I think it's a wonderful idea to do this, we do have to make sure that it isn't obstructing vision and that it's safe in every sense of the word.
I'll take the town clerk.
Well, can you take Amanda first, Robin?
Okay, Amanda, please.
We have pointed out to Mr. Weston that vision for motorists, pedestrians and whatever is not blocked. We have recommended a certain area to him that he could use to put the ribbons, but because it's, you know, he's come up with this idea and that, and our boys do not have time to go down there and remove all of the ribbons, we have said, you know, be his responsibility for taking them down and that they're put up properly, because we just haven't got the time to go and man that.
Okay, well, thank you for that contribution, town clerk.
I was just going to say what Amanda said.
Okay, in which case, will we formally grant, obviously sensitivity prevails on this, that we'll allow it and allow the officers to put in circumstances around visual areas. We know one of the areas where, you know, so that it doesn't do anything, because we don't want to put off people's emotions, and with them not being able to take place and attend remembrance as they do, this is something that they can do and feel they were part of it, and it's important that we support it. Is that agreed?
Yeah,
I agree with the recommendations, Chair.
Yeah, no dissent from that. Thank you. Which brings us on to 18.2, Pumpkin Day, which sounds tremendously fun day. Which I see one of our officers has sat patiently sideways, waiting to speak on this.
Yeah. You're doing yoga.
Thank you, Robin.
Sorry, Bethany. It's just that you are sideways.
No, that's fine. It's just the camera angle. Don't worry. The issue, not the issue. No issues here. It's just because of all the events that obviously were sadly cancelled this year, all our annual events, obviously due to the pandemic, we wanted to come up with something, especially on half-term week, that can engage with the children and the young people, as well as adults as well, whoever wants to take part, to get them going around the town and looking for the letters within the 12 shop windows as well as the chamber, and seeing what they spot to spell out the Halloween theme word. I know a lot of people obviously don't support Halloween or believe in Halloween, but it's not really the going forward for, you know, Halloween and ghosts and ghouls. It's really just to make something, you know, some safe, family friendly fun, if that's the last sort of thing that they can do. And it also, it ties into what we were going into with the supporting the local shops and trying to get as many people into the town, looking and supporting our local high streets and traders, independent and big chain shops as well. So we've got all different aspects and all different places within the town centre and just further afield as well.
Thank you so much for that positive enthusiasm about pumpkins. I always enjoyed cutting them up at Halloween when the children were small. I took a great pleasure out of doing a pumpkin. The rule is if you put it outside your door, it costs you at least 1 tin of roses and a bit more. but this is not anything to do with that. Unless any members have got any concerns, can we thank Bethany for the work on this?
Yeah.
And note in the minutes was how grateful we are for the time put into it.
Yeah.
And we look forward to it. And can we ask that Bethany is involved in doing the press release for this, as she's put so much time in it?
Okay. Yeah, I think we should fully support this, Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I have started doing the press release for you, Robin, as well. So I will circulate that within the office.
Thank you. But I think it's important that we premise this is something that's come from our officers. I think it's important that the town know that our officers are thinking about the community in these times.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. My screen's just gone down again over here again. I've got 3 bits of stuff going on here at the moment. Right, okay. So we move on to 18.2 local democracy event. Amanda, if you can just update people what's going on with that. This is a COVID event, of course, not a COVID undercover event, but it's an event within the COVID restrictions. It's slightly different. Amanda, please lead.
The local democracy event this year will be done on Zoom with the Buckingham School and the Royal Latin. The Stowe School had been invited, but they turned the invitation down this year because they're busy doing other things. Councillor O'Donoghue, Councillor Stutchbury and Councillor Ahmed are going to be taking part in the event, as is Councillor White. MP Greg Smith is going to chair the meeting. So that'll be quite exciting. That'll be the first time that he's worked with us. I've had the questions come through from the schools already. I'm not going to tell you what they're about. I'll do a report for the next meeting, but Councillor O'Donoghue and I had a look through them this afternoon. I think it's going to be quite an interesting meeting this year. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
And my forecast of the questions was pretty close.
Yes, it was.
Which gives me some satisfaction that I at least feel that I have some understanding of young people's concerns still at my age.
Well, you've never grown up, Robin.
No, I never have, Jerry. Councillor Margaret Gately.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just ask, it's not on the agenda, what the date is of the event?
It's Friday.
Friday.
23rd. Is it 23rd?
Yeah, we were going to have it this Friday, Councillor Gately, but because we couldn't we originally started this event with John Burko some years ago, and it was a joint event that I wanted to do local democracy week. Buckinghamshire County Council then started doing local democracy weeks, but when John Burko then became the Speaker of the House of Commons, he obviously tailed off his availability in latter years, but he always supported this event, and it was something that we wanted to do to get young people to be able to ask their MP questions and bring the MP closer to the next generation, also give them opportunities to question councillors. And it's been a reasonably successful event, and I thank the officers for doing it like this. I'd like to have it more inclusive, but it's about the young people, not the councillors, really. And Lisa O'Donnell has been leading on it for 2 or 3 years now, I believe.
2 or 3? No, about 10.
About 10.
Yeah.
Well, time flies for me. You know.
Only 10 years, Robin, don't worry.
Is it only 10 years? But it seemed only like 2 or 3.
Oh gosh.
Anyway.
No, it should be a good one. But if I can add that the event has been tweaked over the years, so it started off with a debate format, and then it turned into a question panel, and now it's more like a town council meeting with discussion points that people can answer, but it's more about bringing the young people in and asking them what they feel about things, and yeah, it'd be good.
Well, we'll obviously, because we're not able to, I understand, to share that publicly, but because of the considerations we've been advised, but we will bring back some intelligence from how it went through the officers, if that's appropriate.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing those councillors involved on Friday. Thank you. If we can move on to 18.1 Charter Fair, which is just a brief note on where we are and realities of it from Amanda.
Right. This weekend just gone would have been the first of our charter fairs, but unfortunately that was cancelled. That event is always the highlight of my year, so it was quite disappointing. But Mr. Nichols, the head showman, did come in on Saturday with the Striker, which is just a small stall, I suppose you'd call it, where you would hit something with a hammer and it jumps up and hits the bell. He set that up outside the old jail, and I think he left it there for a couple of hours. Robin and I met him, and he had requested that the town crier goes out as well. So we did some social distancing pictures, and that was it. It was nice to see them. They're quite upset, you know, that we couldn't have our proper charter fair, and of course we're going to miss it again this weekend coming. But Mr. Nichols won't need to bring anything in for that.
I did exchange money with him. I paid £1 to go on his striker.
Oh, did you?
So that money exchanged hands. I paid £1 and used the striker, so that if anyone can say he technically took money on that day, he took it from me. I just wanted to hit the striker. But
sorry, Robin.
yeah, I enjoyed doing that. Making a bell ring and messing about seemed good fun. But I will say that in the discussions afterwards with him, it was very enlightening what's been going on nationally, and it was an eye opener. Councillor Mari.
Yes, Councillor Bloomfield was before me.
Sorry, Terry.
I was going to say, do we know if this is the first time in 450 years that it's been missed? I know it was the 102nd fair, but it's been going since what, 1550 something? So, couldn't the clerk please find that out?
I know the answer. Councillor Bloom.
Yeah.
Councillor Mari.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So isn't there anything coming this weekend then? Will that not affect the charter?
No.
No.
Oh, good. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda.
Go, Amanda.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was I found it strange with not having the fair coming in, not going out, closing the roads and whatever. But the comments have also been made to me by 2 or 3 councillors that it was quite strange being out there and Friday coming around and us not being out there doing what we would normally do to bring it in. And Mr. Nichols and his wife also made the same comments, that it was quite a strange situation. It was quite sad, really.
Yeah, and also we have to note either Councillor Mari or Councillor Bloomfield buys the coffees.
Yeah, well, that's what I was waiting for, Bob. We've missed that.
Yeah, we missed that. We always unofficially they buy us coffee, which is always so pleasing. And of course, I didn't talk so much as I normally do on that day, so that was a blessing for everyone. But it was a sad day, and I do say that it was really enlightening listening to Marshall talking about how many showmen may not come, you know, financial situation that this has put them under, the fact that many of them have got hire purchase agreements. We all forget that they are businesses and they are functioning in a commercial world, and COVID has been quite seriously affected them. But he was kind enough to do an interview with me, which I've provided the intelligence from that to the office, so that if his words, I don't want to speak for him. He spoke very well for himself, so I don't want to do that. Only to say that it was very enlightening, and it was nice to see him, though under strange circumstances. And we did retreat to his office for a period of time, and then bidded our farewells to him after sharing in some customary practices with him. But we'll move on for that, and hopefully next year we'll be back to normal. And
John's got his hand up, Chair.
Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, just a question. I thought, given how few events the mayor's been able to attend this year because of all the COVID-19 stuff, it just seemed to be a shame that she wasn't there with you and the town crier and Marshall, noting this sad occasion, really. I mean, and just to add a bit of mayoral sparkle to it. It's just a shame the mayor wasn't there.
Well, just for information, it was a business arrangement from the committee. We'd agreed that we would meet him. I'd agreed in the minutes that I would meet him as chairman. He'd agreed that he'd meet me, and the town clerk coordinated it. As Amanda said earlier, it was his request that he wanted the town crier there because it was just going to be a practical exercise. But because we've got such a good relationship, and the town crier is such a nice man, and he's so adjacent to where we were, he made himself available. And to be frankly, it did make it seem that little bit more pleasant for him. It wasn't, no one was trying to snub anybody in this. It was you, if you go back and read the agreement, it was just that he would, when he came to the meeting, he said he would bring the striker, and we had an extraordinary meeting in the council to discuss this. And it was agreed at that point. There was no intention to do anything, and it wasn't an official opening. If we'd have done an official opening, we had the danger of public coming, and there were 6 people there, and we would have breached the COVID-6 rule. So I don't know where we go on that. I think you got anything to say, Amanda?
Yes, the only reason I was there, I wasn't there under work capacity. I was there because I received a phone call from Marshall. His wife had asked where I was and would I like to meet her in town. That's the only reason I was there, and I got that phone call at 12:15.
And the only reason I was there is because I was asked to be there. So,
Chair, please.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll move next item. 19 River Rinse, events coordinator. This was another difficult event to do.
We went ahead and did the one and only River Rinse on September the 27th. There was myself, the town clerk, 2 river wardens and 2 of the green spaces team. And we formed a bubble of 6 on the bank to collect any litter and bits and pieces that came out of the river. And Councillor Stutchbury formed a bubble of 6 with the divers from the Stowe Sub-Aqua group, was in the river pulling out bits and pieces. And most of what we came over for the section that we did, which was between the Bourton Road car park and the cricket club, was a lot of low hanging tree branches, which luckily they were able to clear a lot of them, because the following weekend, as you may not remember, we had a lot of heavy rain, and so the event was called off on the Saturday night, because we would have had another bubble of 6 on the bank and another bubble of 6 in the river. But the event wasn't publicised because of the COVID restrictions, and we didn't want to take any risks.
Just to add to it, that it was nice that we done it. It was a shame we didn't do the second week, because the deputy town clerk, Claire, was so looking forward to actually getting to meet the people and being involved in the event. And she communicated with me on the days up to that, and once the officers and Stowe Aqua assessed it, they came to the logical conclusion we couldn't take place. And on the Sunday, it rained all night, which proves Claire's thinking was impeccable on it. So, I mean, I could have got in the river, but I might have floated down, which may have been mildly entertaining for everyone, but not awfully good for myself. So, so we took the right decision. But can we formally? It would have been
too dangerous.
Yeah. Can we formally agree that we'll write to Stowe Aqua thanking them for everything that we've done? They did, because without them we can't do this event. Yeah. And it's just a shame not everyone could be there. Yeah. Which, if that's okay, we'll move on to 19.2 Dog Show, which is event coordinator and Lisa and Councillor Donoghue to speak on that. Councillor Mahi.
Oh, thank you. No, it was for the previous one. I guess we're going to still make a donation to the Sub-Aqua Club.
We'll do what we always do, Andy. If that's that'll be agreed, that we'll make a donation. We make a donation out of our budgets to it. Thank you so much for raising that, because it's important that we do. And we agree in the minutes that we'll make that donation as normal.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, for bringing that up. Much appreciated. In which case I'll go back to Dog Show and ask the events coordinator and Councillor Donoghue to comment on that, which was an online event, and no one, and it was quite barking, wasn't it? Carry on.
Best Amanda.
Okay. This year's Dog Show, obviously we couldn't do a live event due to COVID, so we did it online. Sam from Lace Hill Community Centre, helped out with the social media side of it. And without her, I think I'd still be doing it. We had 101 entries, which I think we were overwhelmed by entries, because what we did was we asked people to submit pictures of their dogs to me via email. We then put them onto Canva, put them in little frames, set up a spreadsheet, puppies, gorgeous gal, fabulous fella, that sort of thing, and gave all the dogs a number. The pictures were coming through from the minute we advertised it online, how to send in their pictures, right up till late at night. And one of the classes that we did was Public's Vote, or Public's Choice. And they had, I suppose, 24 hours in which to register their votes. And we had, I think it was 99 votes come through on that one. And my email was just ping, ping, ping constantly until the next morning. There, as you can see in the report, we have made some recommendations about additional software that we could use, so that people weren't having to vote on their favourite dog by email. But one of the unfortunate things was that we launched it I think Thursday or Friday before the August bank holiday. And so when I came back to work on the Tuesday, I had all the registration to do for the dogs that had been entered over the weekend. But it was a learning curve. And if we have to do it again next year, we know how to do some of the things differently to make it more smoother. But yeah, and I don't know who remembers Steph that used to run the library.
Yeah.
But her 18-month-old German Shepherd just swept the board. He won Fabulous Fella, Public Choice, and then went on to win Best in Show. So I think when we met with her, she was the happiest lady around.
She was.
But when you look back on it, it was fun doing it and seeing, you know, yeah, especially the Public's Choice. I think some people may have voted 20 times on their own dog, but it was fun.
Well, Councillor Donoghue.
Yeah, I think the difficulty this year is because the event has been tweaked year on year, and I've got the registration table set up and it works perfectly and it runs really well, and with Terry and Mike's help. This year it was literally Amanda and Amanda and Amanda. So whereas I had 3 on the table, it was just her. And Sam did all the social media side as well. And I think I said in our last meeting to minute our thanks to Sam for doing that, because we spoke about it at that meeting, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I hope the committee is happy with the results, and thank you for allowing us to do it online.
Well done. Any members got any comments to add to that?
No, well done to them all.
Only personally, I just regret not seeing you all in the park, but that's an obvious regret. And hopefully next year we'll be back in the park.
Yeah,
where we need to be, because it's such a good social event. And thank you for everyone involved in it.
Thanks.
In which case, I'll bring you on to item 20, accessibility service report. You will recall that some time back we discussed having this report come to us in regards to concerns raised and questions raised about the Disabled Go. The report in itself doesn't guide us to any conclusion, in the sense it gives us some facts, figures and information. Before I comment on it, has members got any views on how to proceed? I have got views myself, but I'd be interested how members are. Councillor Donoghue.
I wonder if the town clerk's got a point of view on that, because it's a difficult one.
It is.
Well, before I go to the town clerk, has anybody else got any points of view? Councillor Bloomfield.
Are we saying, and Christine will probably come in on this, are we saying then all the shops that we walk round, was it 2 or 3 years ago, and vetted, whatever, for want of a better word, and put stickers in that said disabled go, are they null and void now then, now that it's changed? And it seems to me that everything to do with disabled go is now been thrown out the window because it's accessible, because they've changed the name. And have they took the stickers out the shop windows of disabled go? I haven't noticed. I don't know whether Christine has.
You're correct. Councillor Strange-Clark.
Councillor Harvey had a hand before as well.
Okay, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Strange-Clark.
I think it's an issue about who owns the data here. And then obviously a lot of data that we generated and they uploaded to their website and disappeared. But the data, we were authors of the data. And I don't see that they had the right to just delete that data. So my view is that whatever data is currently on the site, we take a copy of that data, and then we find some way of advertising it on our own website and say goodbye, because I think they've treated us shockingly, and I do not think we should be in any way subscribing in the future, but make sure we get the data first before we say that.
I agree with.
Thank you. Councillor Strange-Clark.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Harvey. Yeah, we don't want to have unnecessarily have lost anything that we've got at the moment. Obviously, if we're going to come off this new access able and not carry on paying, they're not going to maintain the website with Buckingham on it. It'll just go. But anything that we are able to keep for ourselves, I think we have to keep. And we have to be, the very last paragraph here saying, if we take it over, of course, it won't be possible to do, anything like the amount of information about different premises that Disabled Go were originally able to do. But we would have the advantage that we actually know the town, which rather better than people coming in, and so we know where people want to go and, what the difficulties are for people who actually live here. So, yeah, so I'm hoping we will be able to take it over, but obviously there will need a lot of work to be going in. So it's going to be, and the actual Buckingham Access for All group is very tiny. Now I hope after the COVID it'll leap back into life and there'll be heaps of people. But to get it going again, it will be really rely on town council input. So I hope a lot of councillors are going to, well, whatever we do, put their energies behind it.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Strange-Clark. I got Councillor Donoghue and Councillor Margaret Gately to speak, and if there's nobody else to speak, I'll say something myself at that point.
Thank you, Robin. I did mention at a previous meeting, I don't know whether it was environment or resources, about the Bucksplaw app, that we have got the kind of framework now for putting information about our town out there. So if we can get hold of the data, whether it can be incorporated at some point, I'm not saying straight away, but in with something that is already here, that we already own, makes sense for people to be able to access it through one avenue rather than having to download 2 or 3 apps to get the same information. I think accessibility isn't just, obviously not just about mobility and walking around. It's being able to get the information as quickly as possible without having to visit loads of websites and various apps.
Thank you. Councillor Gately.
Yes, thank you. I know we've had a lot of concerns about the data since they changed from Disabled Go, and as part of the report, we were given some links to local premises, and I looked at those, and I'm extremely disappointed about 2 of them, at least 2 of them. Our toilets that we're proud of in Cornwall's Meadow have got the changing places facility. There's no mention of that in the link that we've been given, but they have got that possibility, because under the Buckingham Options Centre, they've got in there that there's a changing places facility, but they haven't got it for the Cornwall's Meadow site. And I think that's quite disappointing, because it's a very important piece of information that people should have if they're planning to come to the town. If there's a publicly accessible changing places facility, I think it makes a huge difference to people who've got those particular needs. And
Thank you very much. Yeah, go on, sorry.
On the information relating to Villiers and the town hall, it doesn't seem to show that in order to access the upper floors, the ballrooms specifically, you have to use what is effectively an inaccessible lift in a very nasty route to get to it. And many people, if they needed to use the lift, would find it difficult to get there. And I don't think there's any reference to that in this report either. So I think it's just hugely disappointing that Disabled Go stopped, and this particular organisation haven't really covered themselves in glory since they took over. And I'd be very doubtful that we should continue funding in the way we have done.
Well, can I personally thank everyone for their observations? It's pretty much what I thought. I discussed this obviously before we met today. I'd like to make a change to the recommendation that I believe, with agreement of the members, that we're recommending that we don't renew this contract, but I would ask that we recommend that to the Fine Resources Committee with a recommendation we don't agree, and seek commentary from the Access for All about this before we make the final decision. This is a contract to the council, and I've been here before when we've done contracts on the fair, and then somebody says you cannot discuss that because it's a resources issue, even though it's in our terms of reference. So that we can include Access for All's comment on this report, that we send a strong recommendation that we don't renew this, and that we put it on the next resources agenda with that recommendation from the events committee, taking into account all the comments from the councillors present in that report to them, and then ask for Access for All to comment on it. What I'm wary of is that the very point about this is Access for All, and we should at least get them to comment at that point on the report before the final decision is taken at that point. Could be to walk away from this organisation. Do you think that's a sensible route to go, rather than make a decision and then say we haven't asked Access for All, which seems really wrong? And members happy to take that as an amendment to the recommendation?
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't bring the town clerk in, because he was conscious that he shouldn't steer us on a financial decision, which is in the public domain, and recommend to us take money away from something, because this is purely a decision for councillors to take, not an officer. That's why it's in the report. It is. So are we happy to agree with those changes?
Yeah, we're happy.
And who's going to second that recommendation for the minutes?
I'll second it.
Councillor Mari, thank you. And that will go to resources, and they can look at it with that. But I do want a full note of what members have said, because it was quite valuable, and I was mildly heartened how much people remember the discussions we've had previously on that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that, and we'll move on to item 2.1, which is really just to note the stats from the Tourist Information Centre.
Yeah, no.
And just and I've been in there the other day just to check, and I go in there periodically just to say hello and whatever, and it's becoming more busy. Councillor Bloomfield.
Yeah, just to say, Chairman, that the old jail did open last Thursday for 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And it will be opening for 3 days a week. Well, we go into lockdown if we do.
Yeah, I did notice Councillor Smith in the doorway on Saturday doing his civic duty, and doing his other civic duty was correct me about most of what I was saying. It was nice to see him there again, and that's a little sign of things getting back to normal. I didn't offer to take up any guest rooms in there, but it was a good conversation. Thank you for that, Terry. So we note those. 20. Is there anything on twinning? I don't think there's anything to say, is there? No progression on that. No. In which case, we move on to press releases, which we've agreed within the minutes as we've gone through. And look, we'll do one on the pumpkin things to make sure that, which is already drafted, which I was marvellous that that's already worked out. We'll do something on that, and I look forward to those events taking place. Councillor Murray, before I move into the next item.
Thank you, Chairman. On the press releases, I think we should mention that Christmas lights will go on, because I've had a lot of queries about this. Are we going to have Christmas lights just to brighten up the town, because it's been such a depressing year? I think that will just give such a lift to the town. And if you can do a press release on that.
Yeah, I think once we've moved into the confidential, you'll be able to make a more informed decision about that, Councillor Murray, and that's why that item's being moved into confidential. With those things, I have no chairman's announcements. I need to say thank everyone for their attendance and thank the officers for the contribution to the meeting, in which case we'll move into confidential, and as our next meeting will be on the 7th of December 2020, and we'll move into the confidential, which I'll wait until the web